Hey, welcome to the beginning of this journey that we are embarking on, Ascend. And what we're doing is really going to go on a journey with Jesus in this incredible teaching that he gives. And in fact, as we begin the passage in Matthew 5 today, we see that Jesus sits down and that people pursue what it is that he has to say and are maybe hungry for a fresh message or fresh hope. And so the beginning part of this seems to be almost introductory to the people that seem to be gathering around him. What do you kind of see in these opening statements of Jesus?
Yeah, it's a very interesting moment, and it seems to be prefaced at the end of chapter 4 by this idea that Jesus went around talking about the gospel of the kingdom of heaven. And then all of a sudden, here we are, and he starts doing the Beatitudes where he's saying, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And so it's clearly this, his proclamation, his announcement of the kingdom of heaven has come near, the kingdom of heaven is available, and what that means to him. And people were tuning in because, a lot of the Jewish people back then were longing for the kingdom of God to come, and they maybe had a different view of what that would look like. And so this is Jesus saying, well, here's what I think it looks like. And it kind of reminds me of like nowadays when a politician is running for president, let's say, and they go around and they say, well, in my administration, this would happen and these people would be blessed, and I'd look after the small business owners, or I'd look after, you name it. And here's Jesus saying, well, in my kingdom, the poor in spirit are blessed, and those who mourn will be comforted, and, those who hunger and thirst for righteousness will be satisfied, and those who are merciful will receive mercy. And it's just this idea of like, here's what it's like in my kingdom.
So this language, kingdom of heaven, is really all throughout the Gospel of Matthew. You're referencing that Jesus, that was a primary aspect of his message. That language, though, kingdom of heaven, what does that mean? How do we interpret that or understand that language?
Well, and lots of teachers wrestle with that, right? And have lots of teachings around it. So let's kick it around a little bit. I mean, to me, I think there's clearly like an aspect of like a nation. There's a people, like it has to do with a group of people at some level.
A kingdom
usually
has a populace,
right? Okay. And it usually has laws or ways of living. It has a culture to it. It has all those things that the kingdoms of the world have, but his kingdom is not of the world, it's of the heavens. And so there's a spiritual dimension then to his kingdom. And it seems to be this sense whenever Jesus talks about it of it's coming now in the hearts and minds of people, but it's also an eternal kingdom that's yet to be fully realized, kind of thing.
Okay, so we might say the kingdom of heaven, or in other gospels it might be akin to the kingdom of God, right? Even. So we might say, okay, this is the place where the rule and reign of God is complete. Yeah. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
But then there's the reality of this world. And so what I hear you saying is that the place where God's rule and reign is complete and uninterrupted by sin. Like there is this place where that exists.
Right.
Now Jesus has entered this earthly space, this earthly domain, but he's ushering in a presence of his rule and reign right here, right now. But we still have the reality of the fallen world as well, where his rule and reign is interrupted by us.
Right. No, exactly. Yeah, it's this interesting tension, and the cool thing about it is that the ways of our world that are often so broken and lead to so much heartbreak and darkness have been interrupted then by this kingdom in some cool ways. And so it's almost like he's flipping the script, and all of a sudden those who are unblessed in this world he's calling blessed. And because, like you say, heaven's will is coming to bear in a place where sin had reigned and brokenness and death had reigned. And so all of a sudden there's life popping up, and there's hope, and there's opportunities for a new way, and an invitation given to the people. And it's kind of cool to think about, like, what did the crowd look like that he was looking at? And again, at the end of chapter 4, we're told that they were bringing all kind of sick people to him, and there were needy people
Right.
spread out in this crowd in front of him at the foot of this mountain, and he's looking at them and he's seeing people who are mourning, and people who are broken and spiritually bankrupt, and you name it.
Wow.
And he's looking out and saying, "Blessed are you, the kingdom of heaven is here."
Yeah. And my rule and reign is for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're invited, you're not just invited, you're welcomed.
Mm-hmm.
Where others may have disqualified you, this kingdom is for you.
Yeah.
And in light of that, our bottom line today is that the kingdom of heaven is extra good news for everyone in extra need of good news.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's many of us sitting around the room today in our groups who's like, I'm the person, or was the person, in
Yes.
extra need of good news, and how God's kingdom has and is invading our lives. But also, as our discussions play out today, how does the invitation of Jesus, and really the audience that he invites into his kingdom and says kingdom before, how does that challenge us in who we're being hospitable to, who maybe we've discounted or disqualified from entrance into his kingdom? Does our view of who's welcome align with his view?
Yeah, how hospitable are we towards those that, according to the world, don't look blessed at all, and yet Jesus says you're blessed, and the kingdom of heaven is for you too.
Yeah, do our lives echo the same kind of hope for those who maybe seem hopeless? Does our church echo the same kind of invitation that they heard all of those years ago on that mountain?
Well, what a great way to start.
Yeah, here we go, the ascent.